covered wars, treaties, revolutions, unions and referendums across 7 centuries. History is not merely a catalogue of grievances. If the Union had offered nothing, it would have not survived. The simple fact that it endured for centuries suggests that millions of people on both sides of the world have found reasons to support it. Long before Edmund Burke articulated conservative instincts, such men as William Marshall practiced it. Marshall lived through civil war, rebellion and political upheaval, yet his enduring achievement was not destroying institutions, but preserving them. Stable societies are difficult to build and remarkably easy to break. Burke later argued that society is a partnership between the living, the dead, and those yet to be born. This is highly contentious, but I mean we have to take it on board anyway, whether one supports the Union today or not, and particularly during this time of the year, is debatable. There is wisdom. Recognize that institutions surviving for centuries usually do, for one reason or other, more complicated than either their critics or defenders care to admit. The sociologist Emil Durkheim believed societies were held together by shared institutions, traditions and collective beliefs. Its survival suggested became precisely that for generations of Scots and English alike. Scotland and England spent centuries discovering a frustrating truth. Neither of them was going anywhere. The border moved far less often than the argument. Families often conduct the same argument for decades. Nations, they just simply take longer. Which brings us to modern Scotland. At first glance, the arguments of the 21st century appear entirely different from those of Edward I's day. Nobody is laying siege to castles. Political disagreements are settled through elections, referendums, and parliamentary debate rather than battlefields. Although some might argue a political U-turn occasionally resembled one. Yet the surface familiar questions still remain. Identity. Sovereignty, belonging, authority. But identity is foremost, I would say. The clothing changes, the technology changes, the language changes. English is only like 600 years old, for God's sake. It's an incredibly new language. Yet the people continue to argue about remarkably familiar things: authority, identity, independence, respect. The questions that troubled Edward I and William Wallace continue to trouble politicians today. They just simply arrive wearing different clothes. Devolution returned powers to Scotland while preserving the Union. Independence movements questioned whether the arrangement should continue. Brexit reopened arguments about sovereignty that many assumed had been long settled. I mean, constitutional conversation remains unfinished. Westminster government in the United Kingdom has become increasingly devolved. Hollywood exercises powers earlier generations of Scots could scarcely even have imagined, and it relates directly into parliamentary structures today. It's absurd. Yet the debate continues because the central dilemma remains unresolved. How much authority should be shared? How much structure should be exercised independently? If there is a criticism to be made of modern Britain, it is not that too many people care about sovereignty. It's that too many people disagree on where sovereignty ultimately resides. Whether Westminster claims authority, Hollywood claims authority, the courts exercise authority, electorate claims authority. All of these people claim authority over what is essentially no one's business. And all the while, the constitutional conversation continues. The result is not tyranny, nor is it stability. It's ambiguity, I suppose. Ambiguity, and the ambiguity is a habit of generating arguments. For some, Brexit represented the recovery of self-government. For others, it represented the retreat from cooperation. The disagreement itself is less interesting than what it reveals. Beneath it lies the same question that has echoed throughout the centuries of British history. Who governed us? Edward I would have recognised the question. Wallace would have recognised it. James I would have recognised it. The architects of the Union would have recognised it. And despite all the technological wonders of the modern world, we are still arguing about it today. After 7 centuries argument, I find myself wondering, drawn towards a broadly conservative conclusion. Conservative, yes. Not because conservatism is always correct. History provides little support for confronting fantasy, but because history repeatedly demonstrates how difficult it is to build stable institutions and how easy it is to dismantle them. The world often speaks as though change is like automatically a virtue. It's automatically it's automatically a good thing. Get with the program. And you ask yourself, why? Why? History suggests otherwise. Some changes improve societies, others merely replace old mistakes with new ones. Sounds a bit like a marriage, if we were being perfectly honest, I suppose. The conservative instinct, at its best, is not opposition to change. It is skepticism towards unnecessary damage. It asks a simple question before putting down an old structure. Why was it built in the first place? That's conservatism. That is what's trying to reach its way back up to the parapet of politics today. For 7 centuries, England and Scotland have remained locked in the world's longest family argument. The remarkable thing is not that they continue to disagree. The remarkable thing is that they have remained a family at all. Before dismantling an inheritance that has survived wars, rebellions, industrial revolutions, and political upheaval, it might be wise to understand why previous generations chose to preserve it. History does not demand that we all preserve everything, but it does suggest that we should understand something before we dismantle it. The danger facing Britain is not disagreement. Britain has always disagreed, always changed. The danger is constitutional drift. Institutions work best when their responsibilities are understood. The more blurred those responsibilities become, the more difficult it becomes to determine who should be praised for success and who should be blamed for failure. The constitutional conversation remains unfinished. Perhaps this is inevitable. England and Scotland have spent 7 centuries arguing over sovereignty, identity, authority, and so on. They probably would spend 7 more doing exactly the same thing. Now that is what I call a marriage. The remarkable thing is not that the argument continues. The remarkable thing is that it survives long enough to become a family argument at all. England and Scotland will probably spend another 700 years arguing over sovereignty, identity, and authority. The remarkable thing is not that they disagree. The remarkable thing is that they are still arguing together, like a married couple.
Seriously, Sybil, do you remember when we were first manacled together? We used to laugh quite a lot.
Yes, but not at the same time, Basil.
Give us a good clicking.
Shakanaka.